Okay, so we'll start with this idea. Material selection is key for the way you dress, and Grandma was right. Dress in layers. Okay, first piece is I want to show you an example. This is cotton. Right, kind of dry corner here. I'm going to put about this much of this cotton fabric, and the same amount. Now this wool blanket I got from an old barn, Elmer's barn, and it's been up there for at least 10, maybe 20 years. It doesn't have much lanolins in it. It's been beat on. It's old. Okay, so we got two roughly equal size fabrics going in to the water here. And while that's soaking, we'll talk about fabrics. So cotton, while it's very plentiful, it's cheap, very common and nice. It's not something that we want to put on if we're going to be mindful about being in wet weather for 2 or 3 days. Yeah. The first layer of Grandma's dress in layers should be one that's close to your skin, called a wicking layer. Hydrophobic materials. Now, a natural material that isn't going to hold moisture close to your body is silk. Silk is great, but it's expensive and it doesn't last long. It blows out within a year, at least for me. Right? I might be doing something wrong, but silk doesn't last and it's not. It's good that you wash and it doesn't smell like these plastics, these stretchy plastics. Nylon, polypropylene, anything that ends in on or -ine, like Dacron, it's a petroleum product. Okay, it's also hydrophobic, meaning it won't hold your moisture, and you want it tight fitting. If you can't find something for your feet for a wicking layer, okay, Dad's old dress socks. He's probably got a bunch of black stretchy socks in his drawer. Those are perfect liners. Put them on your feet first before putting on those big nappy rag wool socks, right? Or the Sorels with the wool linings in them, because that'll help keep your feet dry and warm. So our first layer is the one close to our body, and it's called the wicking layer. I don't know if I can fit into this. My son's is a little too big. Fred, right here, you got a little wicking layer. All right. There. 20, 40. All right. So the next layer is the dead air space layer. Now you're going to be making this layer, and it's going to work like this layer with your debris hut, because your debris hut, its engine, its heat source is your core temperature. So as we radiate heat out, it's actually driving the moisture with that expanding air out and away from our bodies. All right. Wool, by the way, I'm just going to put this out there, I'm very biased, is one of my favorite fabrics. It keeps you warm when it's wet. It's quiet. It's fuzzy, so it breaks out it breaks up and dulls your outline against the background. It lasts for a long time. It's easy to repair. I just love wool. All right. So here's my insulation layer. Your next layer is your shell. This is Gore-Tex. This little Gore-Tex bivvy right here. It's neat because it's breathable. So like your debris hut, the moisture and heat that you have is going to drive all of that stuff out and away from you, but the rain is going to ideally hit this and bead off. Gore-Tex is a great fabric for the first 15 months that you have it, and then after a while it loses that repellency and it starts to hold on to that. I've had a Gore-Tex jacket for 18 years, and it used to be 45 pounds in wet, but I'm still dry inside of it. So while it does lose that really cool thing where it beads the water off, it's still useful. It's just, if you're going to be wearing a 45-pound wet jacket, instead of Gore-Tex, I just get a tighter weave on my wool, right, and wear a wool coat. If I'm going to wear the weight anyway, this does not get destroyed by ultraviolet rays like the plastics do, Gore-Tex included, and it has all the benefits of wool. You fall in the drink, even if there's ice on the water, a big boofy wool coat is going to keep you warmer. That's just how, you know. So Plus, it doesn't melt into napalm when you're near the fire and it starts to spark because somebody put a pine log in it. Right? It doesn't happen with wool. Used to be wool blankets were used for fires. There'd be fire stations with wool blankets and you wrap somebody in it because they're resistant to flaming up. Okay, so let's say you're out there and you don't have a backpack full of clothes to go to, a possibles bag or whatever you want to call it. You could still create more dead air space by doing something called scarecrowing. And what I do is I'll put either my pants into my socks, or I'll take cordage or tie these into a knot, and I'll do the same with the cuffs of my sleeves, and I'll just start stuffing. Right? I'll just start stuffing materials into my shirt, into my arms, and what I want to do is just create a whole bunch of dead air space all throughout. Armpits are important, right? And this is so effective that you'll actually get hot and you'll have to pull stuff out. For your notes, this is probably the key concept that all of this is founded on, and I apologize for not putting it out there first. Underline, asterisk, all capital letters. The goal is to keep dry and comfortably cool at all times. And that's worth repeating. Keep dry and comfortably cool. So if I'm walking with a big old Winnebago backpack on the Appalachian Trail at Mach 3, you know, sprinting like Godzilla on crack, and the animals are fleeing, I might be overheated unless I undo and take off that coat, unzip my whatever, sometimes strip right down to just a t-shirt. But as soon as I take off that mobile home, I might have to put on a sweater or a flannel coat or something.
What do you call mobile home?
The backpacks. You see those gigantic backpacks people wear? They're like aliens on their own planet.
Oh, Ryan has one.
Yes, I know. He's my gadget boy. So, this might be necessary while you're in camp, but not so much while you're hiking with the beads of sweat. You don't want to sweat. You want to remain comfortably cool, okay? Anything to add to that?
No, but I do have a question.
Yes.
I just would like to know your thought on a cotton anorak.
I think if you paraffin and or oil it, it would be awesome. But just pure raw cotton, for this climate, not so much. Maybe the desert.
Okay.
If it's light, like a lightweight white cotton.
Even in the wintertime? For a wind chill? And the only reason why I ask
Yes.
is because when I layer up, I'll do exactly what you're saying. I got my Boreal shirt and everything else.
Right.
Unless it is like a downpour and rain, I will wear a cotton anorak
Yeah.
over the top of it, and it cuts the wind, but yet still allows everything to come off the wool
Right.
and goes into that anorak. And at that point in time, I'm not so much worried about it being wet because I can dry that right by the fire.
Right. Yeah, and if you have the gear to, like a little stove, I'm guessing, or a campfire, that's awesome. No problem. There's variables like the thread count, the nice tight weave.
Yep.
The temperature outside in Maine, here's freezing.
Yeah.
And here's what it does every 15 minutes, it seems. So
Right.
that's definitely going to be a wet piece of clothing in this environment.
Mm-hmm.
In more open spaces, let's say you have your dogs and you're on the lakes
Mm-hmm.
and you're in a place that it's negative 20 at night and maybe 8 above to 12 above during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Bonus, that's a perfect piece of gear. Thanks for bringing that up.
Can you repeat this again?
Yeah, so he's talking about a cotton anorak. It's a pullover with a hood.
What is that?
Anorak? Yeah, it's a pullover with a hood.
That's it? It's like a hoodie?
Right, but it's an over piece, right? It goes
Yes,
over all of your other
It
stuff.
goes over everything, comes right down to about the top of your knees.
Yeah, and they're
Yes.
nice. They have the nice big pockets.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, my dad
like wearing
has one
two.
that,
Yeah.
Right,
Pretty much.
there you go. Yeah, as long as the temperature is in your favor and you have management tools to dry that out, support materials, awesome. And that brought up another piece that I neglected, which is... Watch your noggin? No.
Yeah.
Down. Down is the lightest known... We tried to mimic down for decades and haven't come close. Qualifill, Holofill, all of these high-speed bags, sleeping bag fabrics. The problem with down, and it works great in Alaska, it's wet.
Yeah,
Once it gets wet, it's
that's the end of it.
right? And it gets wet in Maine all the time. In
So
Alaska,
that is no good.
down here is no good. Down is great if you're going to be in conditions that are below freezing all the time.
No way. Cold, no way.
Right? If it gets wet, it's no good. Okay? And that's because of the loft or the dead airspace. You're going to hear us say dead airspace a lot when we get to this shelter.